Hi, and a very warm welcome to you. It's Jim from Maverickstar Observatory. Been doing a bit of thinking today, and something came across my mind which I thought I'd share with you guys. Before I do, a huge thank you to the few people that have, stuck with me and supported me over all this time. This is a real situation, a rare anomaly. Even if we go by excursions, the last one was 12,000 years, talking magnetic excursions. But if we go by completed reversals, we're talking 780,000 years ago. This is an event and a rare anomaly that has came back, you could say, to haunt us. We as humanity today are living in a very special time. Our magnetic poles are reversing, something many of our ancestors going way back were fortunate themselves to experience. I'm talking about 12 to 15,000 years. I wanted to bring up an interesting fact, but before I thought I'd cover just some of the basics. As you can see, a lot of pin marks going back to 2017, 2018. That's when we used to. That was before, we had the Trimag system up and running, and we was relying on what we could get from mainstream organisations such as NOAA with the GPS coordinates. When we found their database on the GPS coordinates of the migrating magnetic North Pole, we pinpointed on this map those locations. As you can see, there are many going all the way back to Canada, to the 1900s. But here we are in the present day, and apologies for the videos being slightly out of sync. And I also want to apologise for the quality of the videos. It's not down to the speed of the broadband, because we've got apparently the fastest broadband we can get. It's the amount of time that it takes to upload the videos, and by doing it in a low resolution, it enables me to put these videos up pretty quick and not take up too much of my time. Of course, if I wanted to do glamorous videos, I could use other suites such as OBS, things like that, and of course the video would obviously take me probably 10-12 hours to do. The important thing is the information which I relay to you in a verbal matter, not so much as a graphical matter. And I know in this day and age, if you want to get attention, you've got to do the both. I just don't physically have the time to do it. I wish I did. I've sacrificed so much time learning to program the Trimag system and all the other bits and bobs that we've got going out there now, and you can imagine I'm just here on my own. My observatory is also where I live. It's a domestic property, well, in a rural area. It's a perfect location to have it because we live in a cul-de-sac. There's not much traffic, and I generally look out on open countryside out the back of my living room. So it's a perfect location to have sensitive magnetic sensors that pick up on the exact location. One thing that helps is that we have our equipment pick up on that every 3 seconds. Okay, so I wanted to get to the point of this. We know where the magnetic North Pole is tracking. If I just zoom out, we can see it's following a corridor which I've put there, them two lines. Just zooming back in, we know where this is heading. It's heading to this location here, which is almost central Russia. And we know that the coldest locations on our planet are also the locations of two other anomalies. One is the rotational axis in general over the northern hemisphere, and the other one is the Arctic climate. Now, Russia let's just say this: if the magnetic pole stays in central Russia, it will turn Russia into a permanent Arctic environment. Because we know that where the Arctic environments are where the rotational axes are also where the magnetic north poles are. So Russia will become the centre of a new Arctic environment. No crops will grow there. There will be snow and ice permanently there every day of the year. Russia, in my view, has nothing to lose but everything to gain by annexing other lands and territory. It is clear, it should be clear to anyone with a bit of grey matter that knows Putin has all to gain with regards to annexing these countries like Ukraine and nothing to lose, because I dare say that he has been informed by his own scientists that this is going to be the case. We know that the magnetic North Pole is definitely heading towards central Russia. On the right hand side you can see the massive intensity over Russia. Where we've marked on our corridor end route is where the largest intensity in the centre is, the epicentre of that intensity. We know that on the left of the magnetic intensity chart, we can see Canada is fading out. We've seen that in animations that I've published on this channel before. But on the left hand side of this we can see another picture which is showing temperature, not magnetic intensity, and you can see there is no coincidence that there are two plumes of sub-zero temperatures over the northern hemisphere and southern hemisphere. I believe that when the magnetic North Pole arrives at its final location, which for now looks like central Russia, that will become the new excuse me, the new centre of the Arctic climate. So if Russia's scientists are in the understanding that this is happening, then there is a plausible reason to explain what Putin's actions are right now. Let's face it, he said to the general public and his fellow Russian citizens that what he was doing was defending the rights of Russian speaking people in the Donetsk, Luhansk and other regions that he has recently annexed. If you was in the information of the fact that you were not going to be able to grow crops and sustain continuity of even government at some point in the near future, you would probably resort to such actions. Let's face it, those people that he was claiming to defend were probably in the tens of thousands, well, let's say 10,000 at the most in those regions, maybe 20,000. But he has lost already over 70, maybe 100,000 soldiers trying to achieve his goals there, and has risked also being sanctioned by over 150 countries, and also caused his fellow citizens to flee the country. There is something else. What he's saying is his goals. There is something else there behind it, in my view. It doesn't make any logic sense, because any logic thinking person would end what he's doing right now, and he's clearly going all in on his approach to this, as though it is a matter of life and death. Now, just think about that. His scientists must have warned him that the magnetic North Pole is heading towards central Russia, and that the intensity under Russia right now is increasing in intensity. It's attracting the magnetic North Pole, but it doesn't just attract this magnetic North Pole, it brings along with it the climate. You can see on both these charts, on the left temperature, on the right climate. You know, if that intensity increases over Russia, as it has been doing over the last 20 years, it's going to drag the magnetic North Pole along with it. It's not just going to drag that pole with it, it's going to drag those sub-zero temperatures. And if it resides there permanently for a prolonged period of time, and if we go by even the last excursion, 12,000 years, it's going to be 12,000 years of not being able to grow crops to sustain the numbers of your residents in the country. So why not go all out if you know that is going to be the case? You need to land grab other countries which is outside that intensity, such as Ukraine. You know, other countries as well, I believe, are on the list. But what we're seeing is a superpower go for it for some reason other than what they're saying. Because what they're saying is, you know, with this special military operation, doesn't make any sense, because they have already lost mass numbers of soldiers, which wouldn't be worth doing just to alleviate 10 or 20,000 people in certain regions of a neighbouring country, which is a sovereign country. You know, I wanted to have a conversation with you guys with regards to what is taking place. But I think I've got a different take on this. I think what Putin is doing is trying to secure land outside this magnetic intensity. The only way you can do that is by annexing other parts of other people's territory. And if you know you're going to lose if you do nothing, then you are going to try to succeed by attempting something. It's logical to do that. People aren't just going to go, you know what, we understand your problems, here's some of our country, here's some of our territory. They're not going to do that. We live in a world where we have borders, and you know, they cause serious amounts of problems when we have climate events like what we're experiencing. Because if you try and migrate outside your country, then you're dealing with immigration and border patrols. And then they just don't say, because you want to go there, they just don't say yes. So, you know, I thought it was well worth bringing this to your attention. You know, this is something else which needs to be put down on the table. We are, and every organisation in the world that studies geomagnetic anomalies or geomagnetics are with the complete understanding that we are definitely going for a magnetic reversal. So, you know, what I'm talking about is just more in the details of what's about to take place and where things are going. You know, you won't see on mainstream media, you won't see NASA, NOAA, the ESA or any of those organisations talking about what is taking place with our magnetic North Pole and where its end location seems to be at this point in time. Just want to clear up a little fact. Usually I talk about the magnetic North Pole as the northern magnetic pole. I really don't want to confuse people that don't understand what's going on here, but the actual magnetic North Pole, as Matt G I think said in the comment section on a previous video, is actually the South Pole. You know, it's not new. You know, I've known this for a long time. But if you start saying to people, we've got a magnetic South Pole in the northern hemisphere, it gets very confusing. But that is actually the case. What we are tracking is the magnetic South Pole. Technically, that's what we track. In the southern hemisphere of our country is the magnetic North Pole, which is just leaving the peninsula of the Antarctic. So just to clear that up, I thought I would. But in general, when we talk about the magnetic North Pole and we are tracking, I know it sounds confusing, but for a lot of people that don't understand this, we are talking about the South Pole in the Northern Hemisphere, but what we say, it's the magnetic North Pole for, simplistics. That's it. Otherwise, we start to lose people, when they don't get simple concepts. So, that's why, I always refer to it as the magnetic North Pole that we're tracking, because it's in the Northern Hemisphere. I just don't, that I haven't confused anyone with what I've just said. But, that's my take on this. I think we are starting to see now things gear up around the world. I really wonder if what is happening globally with the cost of living rising is because of this event and how close we are to it. Or, I'm trying to ask people around me, are people really struggling right now to pay the bills? I've made a series of cutbacks. I'm very cautious now, whereas I never used to be 5 years ago about having, lights on in rooms I'm not in on the evening, but now I do. I have short bursts of the heating system. I'm trying to engage with people in debate to try and get their feedback on what is happening, because I do feel that there is an economic slowing down. And what has caused that? It's not the war in Ukraine, because this started before the war in Ukraine. This we're talking about 8 months ago. This has been going on for the last 6-7 years. So there's something else behind it. I'd be interested in your comments. So you please feel free. I will read every one of your comments, and if I'm intrigued by it enough, I'll talk about it in perhaps tomorrow or the next day's video that I do. We've got to try and figure out a clear strategy here, because mine constantly is changing with all the events that is taking place. We are living in a real time of crisis. These things are unfolding on millions of people every single day, and the majority of them do not know what is happening, why it is happening, and what to expect when it happens, if it hasn't already. So, as usual, a big thanks to our superstars. Big thank you to those few people. Always few people. I just don't understand sometimes. I really don't understand. We're back in the red again in the observatory, and for a few months we enjoyed being in the green, and now we're back in the red again. Unbelievable. It sickens me, worries me when I see the funding dropping off, because I think, what am I going to do? What more have I got to do? I've invested way too much in trying to inform people over the last 10 years about this scenario. What happens if that day comes and we can't, do what we're doing? It worries me, that's all I'm going to say. So I will mention the link down there in the description. I hope that you understand what's going on, you understand why we're trying to inform people. And I saw in the comment section the other day that people thought it was okay to go alone in this coming events, and I think it's the worst case scenario. You want to be in a community of people that understand the situation, that are like-minded, and that are willing to work and help you as much as you are willing to work and help them. That's the way forward. That's how we have came out the hunter-gatherer industry into farming and production. So if we go back to helping ourselves, there will always be, as there has been in the history of our lives, people that work together, that overcome and conquer, individuals. So it is, like I said, you know, if every organ in your body went out for itself, your body would be dead within an hour or less. And we are no different. You know, you just expand that from the macro to the, from the micro to the macro. You know, you just expand that out. You know, communities are stronger than individuals. So, you know, to try and do it on your own is impossible in what we're going to be facing, because you might one day not be successful, or not be successful for a week in hunter-gathering, if it comes down to that, you know, but someone in your community might be, and what they catch might be shared between more of you. Do you get my idea what I'm trying to say here? You know, strength in numbers is basically what I'm saying, not individualism. Okay, that's enough. There's a link down there if you want to help support what we do. I surely hope you do. And I'll say what I usually do, you know, you take care of your loved ones. As always, bye for now.